Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sonika Karmakar, and today, on the occasion of National Snow Leopard Day, I welcome everyone to this webinar on behalf of the NVEST team at the Wildlife Institute of India. In the beginning, may I please request everyone to mute your microphones and camera. This webinar is also being live streamed on YouTube and the Wildlife Institute of India website. Snow leopards play a key role as both top predator and as an indicator of the health of the high altitude habitat. If snow leopards thrive, so will countless other species. As per IUCN, they are vulnerable and are found in 12 countries: Afghanistan, Bhutan, China, India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, Nepal, Pakistan, Russian Federation, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and the latest population, according to McCarthy et al. 2017, is estimated to be around 2,710 to 3,386. Recognizing that it would take more than individual efforts to conserve snow leopards, at the first Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Forum held in October 2013, all 12 snow leopard-rich countries endorsed the Bishkek Declaration. They pledged commitment toward the present and future generations to protect and recover snow leopard populations and their fragile habitats for people to enjoy. A year later, annually thereafter on October 23, International Snow Leopard Day has been held in order to commemorate the anniversary of the Bishkek Declaration and to create awareness about the snow leopard. I now welcome Dr. S. Satyakumar, Scientist G and Senior Professor at the Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun. Dr. S. Satyakumar is a conservation biologist with over 30 years of professional experience, largely in the Himalayan region. His expertise includes biodiversity inventory, assessment, particularly habitat relationships in relation to human use, impacts of climate change on wildlife and the habitat, human-wildlife interaction, biodiversity conservation, and management in transboundary landscapes, and environmental impact assessments of developmental projects. He has been contributing to projects snow leopard environment for development of management planning guidelines for snow leopard landscapes and snow leopard population assessment in India protocol that is currently being implemented. He has been involved in the global snow leopard ecosystem protection activities. I will now request Dr. S. Satyakumar to kindly begin his talk. And for our viewers, please leave your queries in the comments and chats, and we will address them after the presentation. Small survey will be there after the
Is the screen visible? Good afternoon, everybody.
And a short poll, which
Thank you very much, Sonika, and wish you all a very happy Snow Leopard Day. As Sonika has just introduced, we are going to talk about a species that is really unique, rare, and highly endangered. That it is an animal that is going to be the flagship for all the mountains of Central and South Asia. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the snow leopard species itself and the species that are coexisting with snow leopards, the prey, the threats to the species, and how some bit of information on ecology and biology and behavior, and then what are the threats to the species, and then look into how different countries are trying to save the species uh, and also working together with all stakeholders, including NGOs, to save the habitats and the people who are living in the snow leopard landscapes. As I said just now, the mountains of South and Central Asia, as you see on this map, are really rich in biodiversity, and they are unique in the sense that they are all mostly cold and arid areas, high mountains, rugged, and also plains. But these areas are the areas that have communities, people who live as largely as pastoralists in these areas, herding livestock, as well as indigenous systems there. And as you move down to the main greater Himalayan range, the third pole of this world, the Himalaya, which is forming the edge of the Tibetan Plateau here at the northern borders of our country and for South Asia. The distribution also ends for snow leopard here in the Himalayan region. All of us know that Greater Himalaya, with its very high peaks, have a different biodiversity, which is south of the Greater Himalayas, because you have very high snow-capped peaks as Kanchenjunga, Mount Everest, Sagarmatha, Nanda Devi, Annapurna, and so on. But what is north of this mountain range is this cold and dry, arid landscapes, which are called Trans-Himalaya. And this is connected to the Tibetan Plateau, which is the cold desert. These habitats are without much vegetation in the form of trees, but only shrubs and grasses, mostly barren land, rocks, cliffs, and broken terrain. These areas also have marshes around high altitude lakes, like the ones that you see here. You might see these lakes in Ladakh, for example, Sokar, Somorari, Pangong Tso, or high altitude lakes in these areas. And in these mountains, the apex predator is the snow leopard. As like any ecosystem, apex predators play the biggest role of maintaining the ecosystem functions in an area. And for the mountains, it is the snow leopard. Snow leopard is also known as a gray ghost because it is very difficult to spot this animal in these high altitude areas because it has got a very nice coat that blends with the environment. So it is well camouflaged, I could say, and gets concealed in the terrain that is very much grayish and brownish and white. And so it can easily hunt its prey in these areas. Snow leopard is one of the smallest of the large cats in India in size. It has a very different head, finely formed body, and the body is completely gray with white buff. It has got rosettes and black spots. And the most interesting thing about the snow leopard is that it has got a very long tail, which is as long as its body, which is used in two ways. One is to balance itself when it is moving around the cliffs chasing a prey, as well as in colder times, it can curl itself with the tail, so keep itself warm. Snow leopard coat is very thick and woolly, as it has to be because of the very cold temperatures that they live in. Their paws are very strong, and they have enlarged nostrils to take in air even in rarefied atmosphere at great heights like the high Himalayas, which is usually more than 12,000 feet, and also have very good heart that can function, and lungs that function very well in these high altitude regions. They are adapted to live in such conditions. As was just mentioned, the scientific name for the species is Panthera uncia. Local people call it Himtendua in Uttarakhand and Himachal, But in Lahul Spiti or Ladakh, they call it Shen or Shun. It's a vulnerable species, but is listed as Schedule 1 in the Indian Wildlife Protection Act. This animal, as I said, is very well adapted to cold. It doesn't migrate to lower elevations. It lives in the area where it is. It lives in areas where the temperature goes sub-zero most of the time. In some places in Spiti, it can go up to -20, and in Ladakh, it can go up to even -30, -40. So this animal lives there and is well adapted to live there and survive in the system. I'll just show you a short video of how this animal looks like in the wilderness. As you see here, it's completely blended. And if you see it from a very far away distance, you will hardly see it. It's a smaller of the large cats, as I said. And you can see the very long tail. And one interesting thing about this cat is that unlike tigers or lions, it cannot roar. This cat cannot roar. Look at the long tail. And it is always on lookout for danger as well as living in these areas. Now, if you look at for this area that we're talking about in the world, these 12 nations that we are talking about is, as was mentioned earlier, Russian Federation, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, and China. These 12 nations is the area of potential snow leopard distribution range is about 2.77 million square kilometers. That would support around 7,000 individuals. We don't have a precise estimate as of now, but we are working towards it. If you look at India, in the 4 Himalayan states of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh, as well as the 2 Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir, where the dark snow leopard range is found. This range is about 128,000 square kilometers. And we're talking of the range usually above the tree line in both the areas. So it is about 3,200 meters to up to 5,500 meters in the Western Himalaya. And in the Eastern Himalaya, it is about 4,200 meters above to 5,200 meters. So if you look at the breakup of the union territories and the four states, Ladakh would be the area in India that has maximum area under the snow leopard habitat, about around more than 70,000 square kilometers, followed by Himachal Pradesh with 27,000 square kilometers, Uttarakhand with about roughly 13,800 square kilometers, Sikkim with 3,000, and Arunachal with about 6,000 square kilometers. This is the area of snow leopard in India. Now, these snow leopard landscapes are very rich in food resources, and although they look barren at a macro scale, the water and the fodder that is produced in these areas by system that supports a very large diversity of wide mountain ungulates, which are some of them are prey for snow leopard, as well as a large number of livestock which come into these areas during summer. One of the co-predators or large mammals that share habitats with snow leopard is the Himalayan brown bear, one of the largest bears in India of the 4 bears that you find here. An animal which lives only in the alpine region. This shares snow leopard habitat only in the 2 states, Uttarakhand, Himachal, and some parts of Ladakh and Kashmir. Other co-predators include the Tibetan wolf and lynx. And we also have animals like the red fox and sand fox that occur in these habitats that also play a major role in scavenging or being omnivores. And wolf, brown bear, and snow leopard involved in livestock killing, and so they lead to some conflicts as well. It's not that snow leopards always live in alpine areas. Occasionally, they may wander into the subalpine habitats or alpine scrub. Like you see here, they may come into the subalpine areas, and that is where their range may overlap with another large carnivore, that is the common leopard. So these are photo camera trap images of the same site taken from Uttarakhand, wherein you will find that the same area, both snow leopards and common leopards are actually used in different months with a very short gap between each other, particularly during winter. And last year, we had another surprise from eastern Sikkim when camera traps recorded the capture of tiger ranging overlap with snow leopards. This is really amazing. The first place in the world where tiger and snow leopard range have kind of overlapped in East Sikkim. So these are some interesting findings that we're getting to know about our large carnivores in the country. Like tigers are getting now being spotted in higher elevations, and this is one evidence, first evidence of snow leopard and tiger range having overlapped. Now coming to the major prey for snow leopard is largely the blue sheep or baral. This is a group living mountain ungulate that is found very commonly in all parts of the Tibetan region and the Trans-Himalayan regions, and in some parts of the Greater Himalaya. They have males have finely formed horns, and the females have smaller horns. They are neither true goat nor true sheep. They form as a group individual. They have characteristics of both goat and sheep. And other prey for snow leopard include the Asiatic ibex, found only west of Sutlej, that is only in Spiti and in parts of Zanskar range and in Ladakh region. This is a true goat, finely formed horns and a beard, as you see in this picture. It lives in cliffs and a sure-footed animal, again herd living. The other one, the picture on the top right, is of Tibetan argali, which is known as Ovis ammon. It is the largest wild sheep that is found in the world. And here they are found in ski slopes and high mountains. They are very fine formed, large horns, and they are an important prey for snow leopard. There are other mammals, wild mammals like wild yak that also lives in the snow leopard habitat. But within India, there's a very small population that occurs along the DBO area. Other animals that share snow leopard habitat include the Tibetan wild ass or the kiang, which is found in large numbers in the Tibetan plateau, as well as in the Trans-Himalayan regions, where they use of plains and rolling meadows. And then we have another animal, which is a gazelle, Tibetan gazelle, found in small groups of 1, 2, or 3 in eastern Ladakh area, and they also form prey for snow leopard. And the bottom picture is of Ladakh urial, a sheep that is found as a group living animal found along River Indus, along banks of River Indus and other slopes in Ladakh, and a major prey for snow leopard. If you move to the Greater Himalaya southern slopes, even animals like the musk deer that are also form prey for snow leopard. These animals are primitive animal deer which occur alone, singly, in the alpine scrub and subalpine forest, and they will form a very small proportion of diet of snow leopard. Similarly, mountain goat of the southern side of the Greater Himalaya is the Himalayan tahr. This is also reported to be in the diet of snow leopards, as reported from some studies in Nepal, wherein the tahr has been found in the diet of snow leopard, and tahr population recovery has led to snow leopard population recovery in Nepal. Apart from this, snow leopard feeds on very variety of small birds and animals, like, for example, rodents, particularly marmots, Himalayan marmot, a long-tailed marmot, then the Tibetan woolly hare, and the small animals like pika or the Himalayan mouse hare. And recently we recorded snow leopard with the kill of the woolly giant squirrel, which is one of the largest flying squirrels, and reported only in a few localities in the northwestern and western Himalaya. So if you look at snow leopard habitats and habits, they live largely in the alpine and occasionally in subalpine zones. Their habitat is characterized by open ground, sparse grass and shrub vegetation. They prefer rugged terrain, steep rugged terrain that is broken by ridges, cliffs, gullies, and stony rocky outcrops. This is a typical habitat for snow leopard, where they are really agile in trying to hunt their prey. They are capable of hunting a prey that is 3 times larger than its body weight, and they're usually solitary, excepting for some time they live in small family groups, like a mother with cubs. The breeding time is in winter, that is during January to March, and the gestation period is about 90 to 100 days. So they have their young ones by the time spring season arrives. A mother can give birth to 2-3 cubs, and within 1.5 to 2 years, the cubs can grow off and wean away. Here you can see snow leopard are usually solitary, but they maintain their territories by marking their sites where they move on. So you will find V-shaped track signs wherever we are there. They leave scats, as well as they also do spray on overhanging rocks to mark the territories. They move very large distances. Large predators move long distances. They can't be confined to small protected areas. That is evident from the studies on the home range of these animals done in Mongolia, for instance, using telemetry, satellite telemetry, and they report that an adult male has about something like 200 square kilometers of range. And if you have 3 or 4 males in an area, even with minimal overlap, they will be moving around in more than 1,000 to 1,500, 2,000 square kilometers. And for a sub-adult, it was something like 124. A study done in Nepal puts the winter home range of snow leopard to be around only 20 square kilometers. Similar results have been reported from India as well in a study, pioneering study done by the Wildlife Institute of India in 1990. Currently, studies are underway and in all over the snow leopard range, and we are likely to get more information about snow leopard home ranges. And as I said, pairing takes place during winter, and young ones are born in spring. And if the mother is successful, she would raise all the 3 cubs to reach their adulthood, and then the adult males, when the young males will start dispersing off to new territories. Now coming back to India, based on the habitat quality, some biologists who are working on snow leopard have joined together to prepare a habitat quality map for snow leopard prey, and then try to estimate the what could be the population of snow leopard based on intensive studies carried out in a few areas in the Indian region. And based on those limited studies and extrapolating to based on habitat quality, we estimate there are at least 500 odd snow leopards in India, of which, of course, Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh will have the largest population of about 285 animals or so, followed by Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, about 80-90 animals, and then Sikkim with about 13 animals, and Arunachal about 42. Now, this is only based on expert opinions, limited studies and extrapolations. Currently, we are doing detailed population estimation for in India. That I'll come to that later. The threats to snow leopard include reduction of natural prey due to competition with livestock and poaching, retaliatory killings by people to reduce livestock loss, war-related activities. As many of you know, it occurs only in the mountain areas, most of the mountainous borders, and also poaching for skin and bones to cater to the illegal wildlife trade. Now, livestock grazing is an important occupation for people living here. Many of them are semi-nomads or nomads, but large number of livestock visit these areas. Although snow leopards feed on some of them, but too many livestock in an area can affect the decline in of wild prey in an area for snow leopards. And today we have the problem of free-ranging feral dogs, even as high elevations as 5,000 meters in the Himalaya, which is going to be another serious threat, because they can compete with snow leopards, steal kills, as well as prey on wild prey. Now, our studies also indicate that snow leopard, based on camera trap observations on activity of snow leopards, we find that it avoids human activity time periods, movement of livestock, as well as dogs. So they are active only when humans, livestock, and dogs are not active in these areas. Similarly, blue sheep also avoids humans and livestock. So these kind of observations indicate that anthropogenic pressures are going to be an important management issue. Some studies in our country have also indicated that some amount of livestock is good, but as the livestock numbers increase in an area, the snow leopard densities are definitely going to decline. Similarly, some experimental studies have been done in Himachal Pradesh, where in one area, interventions were made in the form of limited grazing and keeping aside wilderness areas for snow leopard and prey, whereas Pin Valley was kept as whatever was happening was maintained like that. But on the diet analysis of snow leopard over a period of 15 years, say 2002 to 12, for 10 years, at every 5-year gap, says that there is an increase in the number of wild prey like burrel in case of Kibber, where interventions were made with local community participation. Now, taking all this into account, the Government of India launched Project Snow Leopard in 2006. And the goal of this project is to safeguard India's unique natural heritage of high altitude wildlife populations and their habitats, and promoting conservation through participatory policies and action. There are some 10, 11 points for this project. One is to facilitate landscape approach. So you can't confine snow leopard conservation to protected areas. So we're looking at conserving the entire landscape, which might have protected areas and other multiple use areas, large areas. And also rationalizing the protected area boundary so that we can improve the management of the area so that we have good PAs with potential wildlife habitats inside. And also look at the framework for conservation of wildlife and snow leopards, including snow leopards outside PAs, and also make sure our development is responsibly done and sustainably done. Some of the endangered species require recovery programs. This document talks about that. Very strict measures to protect wildlife and enforce law, including transboundary issues, and the role of our traffic and Indian customs, forest departments, wildlife departments, army, and the paramilitary forces. And better understanding and management of human wildlife conflicts in the area. Any areas that are highly used and degraded, we need to restore them. Also using knowledge-based approach to conserve and do adaptive framework for wildlife species. And human use, wherever they are very high, we need to bring it down to sustainable levels so that habitat quality is ensured and animals can survive. And most importantly, promote conservation education awareness amongst people. Some of the examples that India has done, I can say here is that the landscape of Spiti in Himachal Pradesh has been identified, and based on the research done by Nature Conservation Foundation, Mysore, over a 2-decade period, a management plan based on zonation has been made, and this is the first management plan for snow leopard landscape in India. Based on this, guidelines for management plan writing has been established, and we expect that other parks and other states will also declare landscapes and then adopt this management planning guidelines. And there are many efforts to bring problems under control and manage these areas. One of them is community-based programs where livestock insurance to reduce losses to the people, good herding practices, incentives for better management, voluntary creation of livestock-free zones, and also vaccination programs. There are many examples. I'll just glimpse through some of them, like in India, Pakistan, Bhutan. Many governments and NGOs have worked towards reducing the killing of snow leopards and recovering wildlife species. Local people have been encouraged to do community-based ecotourism, improve their corral structures. Corrals are structures that where livestock are kept in the night, so that we can reduce depredation by snow leopards and wolf, and also collaborations with national and international agencies to improve ecotourism. For example, this is a very poorly maintained corral in Kargil area of Ladakh region, where wolf or snow leopard can enter and kill all the livestock. Now, with interventions like this, where a proper construction and strengthening of corral can safeguard livestock from being killed by snow leopard or wolf. These small interventions have really helped to go up. Now, as I said, conservation education is very important. WII had done training of trainers, that is the teachers in Ladakh region, on how to do snow leopard conservation. A set of poster series were made along with the activity booklet and given to the teachers so that they could work with the children and all of them could learn about snow leopard and the landscape and the other animals and the importance of conservation. Now, teaching one student means you're teaching one whole family. So the child will go back home and talk about all these importance, and that's how awareness creation exists. And there are other solutions, like for example, this is a place where Shangdong is a place where it's a conical structure where people build them to kill leopard or snow leopard or wolf that enters. Now, with the interventions of NGOs like NCF, Shangdong has become a stupa where they have made it as a stupa. Stupa is a religious place of Buddhism. So these methods which are used to kill wildlife are now being converted into places with religious connect and cultural connect so that wildlife decimation doesn't occur. enterprise of local people working in snow leopard areas, be it ecotourism or value addition to their products and livestock insurance, have all made tremendous changes in the life and awareness of people in these areas. This is one initiative in Spiti called, where snow leopard is called as Shen. Similarly, such enterprises are occurring in Sikkim and Ladakh and other parts of the world. Similarly, in Nepal, Annapurna Conservation Area, as well as Shefung Sundo, several conservation committees, snow leopard conservation communities have been created. And in Kanchenjunga also, in India part, as well as Nepal part, we have conservation committees, which is called KCC. All of them are involved in monitoring, protection, as well as conducting limited ecotourism and homestays. Mongolia is a set a good example by strengthening their night shelters for livestock, monitoring snow leopards. And here is a leader that you can see, a teacher who for the last 2 decades has been fighting to save snow leopards in the region. Mongolia had a lot of mining because what were happening, but now due to the presence of snow leopard, mining licenses have been revoked, and Mongolia is in fact taking a lead in trying to establish community responsible areas and best practices to reduce impacts on snow leopard habitat. Kyrgyz Republic also has been the leader in fact, for the GSLEP, and they have been doing various activities, including declaring 3 wildlife protected areas in this year alone. Similarly, the NGO Snow Leopard Conservancy has done very good work in Bhutan, Nepal, and Ladakh, and as well as many places where they're looking at involving communities to reduce conflicts, improve their livelihoods, as well as create studies on create awareness and conduct studies on snow leopard, including camera trapping and genetic studies. Now, coming to GSLEP, the day that we are celebrating today, this actually originated in 2013, when these 12 nations came together to sign the Bishkek Declaration. India was also party to this, and in 2017 there was a re-emphasis of this Bishkek Declaration. So 23rd October every year we celebrate it as Snow Leopard Day. Now, one of the main objectives of Global Snow Leopard Protection Program, or GSLEP, is that these 12 nations come together and save the snow leopard and its habitat. For that, one of the things that it talked about was securing at least 20 snow leopard landscapes by 2020. India has identified 3 landscapes within our country. So that way, all these countries are now going ahead with protecting these landscapes with proper management and interference. From India's side, Project Snow Leopard is still the major program that is contributing to snow leopard conservation. We have identified 1 large landscape in these areas. The management plans are being developed in these Project Snow Leopard as per the directions of the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. And there are many activities that are taking place to reduce conflicts and do better management in these areas. Last year, on the International Snow Leopard Day, the Government of India launched the Snow Leopard Population Assessment in India. This protocol is along the lines of the PAWS, that is Population Assessment of World Snow Leopards. This is being done for the 12 countries, and India has its own protocol, which is in sync with the World Protocol. And this is being implemented in the snow leopard range in India. Basically, this will involve 2 phases. One is occupancy-based information, that we divide the area into grids and know whether the snow leopard is present or not, what are the habitat status and the prey status and the anthropogenic pressures in the area. Then the second phase would involve estimating prey populations and doing camera trapping to identify snow leopards and estimate snow leopard population based on camera traps, capture-recapture methods. And we are now tested this, and it's working well, and we are trying to upscale this for the entire country. And we have a new method called double observer method, which will be used to estimate population of prey like blue sheep. Finally, I'd like to say that the most important thing that has to be done is the transboundary cooperation between the 12 countries. Snow leopards don't confine within countries, they move between countries because all the borders are high and mountainous. We cannot control their movements. For instance, the snow leopards collared in Kanchenjunga region of Nepal have moved into Kanchenjunga region of in Sikkim. So these kind of movements occur between Mongolia and Russia, Pakistan and India, as well as Nepal and Tibet, and so on and so forth. So what is required is that all countries through NINS, the GSLEP, are trying to ensure that the connectivity is there and animal populations can move around between these nations, and also monitor carefully the illegal trade to stop the poaching of snow leopard. With this, I conclude my talk, and if there are any questions or comments, please, I'll be very happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Okay, am I audible now? Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us with this wonderful talk about this special species, snow leopard, on the day today. I would like to thank you from the NVIS Hub, NVIS Resource Partner, WII. And now I would like to take a few questions. There are quite a few, and let's see how many we can take in today's session. The first one is about how global warming impacts the behavior of snow leopard.
Okay, good that it has been pointed out. I did not mention it in my talk. As I mentioned, Himalaya and the mountains of Central and South Asia are affected by climate change. And there is one study already that illustrates that the snow leopard habitats in the Himalayan region would be declined or will reduce because of warming, because the potential and actual habitats of snow leopard would no longer be available for use by these animals. Mm-hmm. That is one thing. So they will be moving to either higher up or moving laterally. So there are refuge areas which they will definitely move. But at least there is an estimate, I don't remember the exact figures, but yes, there are at least 20% or about 25% of snow leopard habitat within the Himalayan region may get reduced if the current levels as indicated by IPCC would go on.
Oh, that's a very serious number, 25%. Second question is about how much do these leopards generally live? So it's about their life and what do they usually eat? So I think on their food behavior you have already included in the slides.
Diet, as I mentioned, but see, longevity in the wild is not very much known, but we expect them to live for something between 8 to 12 years or 14 years. That's what. But in captivity, they live longer, of course, for obvious reasons.
And in continuation of the diet, Mr. Karan Kamble asks that snow leopards are preying on livestock. There are recent research on that. And regardless of the prey of, natural prey, he would want you to shine a light on this unusual finding of the snow leopard preying on livestock and any other frontier research that you find interesting surrounding snow leopards.
See, throughout the distribution range, wherever there is livestock grazing in snow leopard habitat, snow leopard kills livestock. This is not unusual. It happens with tigers as well as in leopards. So any predator, when, for animals living in such remote, high altitude, harsh environment, finding a prey, wild prey and hunting them every time may not be possible. So if they try maybe, for example, 20 attempts they may succeed once in getting a blue sheep, aral or an ibex, or they may catch a marmot, something like that. But it's not possible all the time. Livestock, on the other hand, can be an easy prey for them. So you find livestock to be in the diet of species in many cases. See, as long as the diet is the contributions in small proportion, it is fine.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you, sir. So Ms. Nidhi is asking about the ratio of male and female snow leopards. And she's asking what should be the ratio for an effective population size?
This is, the studies are going on, and currently we still don't have a precise idea about what should be the sex ratios. it differs from place to place and from season to season, or even from year to year. So as of now, 1:2 or 1:1.5 could be there, but I will not be able to say with evidence.
Sure, sure. And Dr. Shrikant is asking, are there any conservation and breeding centers in function for the species?
Yes, the Padmaja Naidu Zoological Park, high altitude zoological park in Darjeeling, northern part of West Bengal. There is a captive population, and they are a recognized snow leopard conservation breeding center. They were known at one point of time, maybe 10 years ago, they had as many as about 25-30 individuals, but now they have about a dozen animals, I think. You can see them in captivity there.
Mm-hmm. And Ms. Archana Thakur is asking, do snow leopards have any predators? And given that the forests are decreasing, how to increase this number without sufficient forest coverage?
To make it clear, snow leopard doesn't use forest areas. They only use the alpine and areas and above, the treeless areas largely. And there are no natural predators to snow leopard. But if the free-ranging dogs, if 3-4 of them are there, then that can be a disaster for a snow leopard. There are images and information from Mongolia where 3-4 feral dogs, free-ranging dogs, have actually attacked snow leopards. Otherwise, they don't have natural predators. And we would really like to increase the population of snow leopards. And first, let's get a good idea about the actual numbers that we have, and then we'll plan.
Sure, sir. And Mr. Ishwar from Telangana Forest Department, he's asking the impact of climate change. Again, you have already answered that. Climate change on the conservation effort of snow leopards. So I think you have already answered.
I covered that, yes.
Yeah. And Mr. Saroj Raj is asking, any problems in political war zones owing to the conservation of the species?
Yes, because when two countries are not very friendly, unfortunately in the Himalayan and Central Asian regions, snow leopard is found in the mountains, and many of these nations have borders which have the mountains as borders. So there will be impacts definitely on the snow leopard and other wild animals in the area.
Sure. And sir, do we have any idea about the total population of snow leopard in India as well as world? Ms. Aparna is asking.
India, we have an estimate based on habitat quality, which is about 620 animals or so. And for the world, I had already mentioned it's about 7,000 animals.
Okay.
This is again an educated guess based on expert knowledge and potential habitat understanding of that.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Nisar Tandon is asking about different initiatives that governments are undertaking to stop poaching activities, and especially the areas where there are tribal people.
Yes, Government of India has started various programs. One of them, under the Project Snow Leopard itself, we are creating awareness amongst the paramilitary forces, people who live there. Tibet Border Police. These people live in these areas where we as biologists also don't get a chance to be spending that much time there. So they are there patrolling those areas. So we are constantly creating the awareness amongst them so that they can patrol those areas along with the wildlife and forest department people. And if there are any, and local villagers have been sensitized about the illegal wildlife trade. So any tip that is being provided is investigated, and that's how the trade is also being monitored and controlled.
Okay. And Mr. Subrat from IIT Delhi is asking about, is there any radio collaring effort or tracking initiative from WI that we have done for the species?
We did radio tracking in 1990s. Okay. Now there are plans to do more animals. Currently, radio telemetry studies are happening in Ladakh, where I think about 6-7 animals have been collared, and using satellite telemetry, their movement and ranging are being monitored.
Okay. And there is a very interesting question about how many global meetings have been organized at global and Indian level, if we have that data about that.
The Global Snow Leopard Protection Program, GSLEP, that started 7 years ago. Every year we are meeting. Today's meeting this morning, 3 ministers from the 12 range states and very high representatives of the government of the other states, nations present in the meeting. So this shows the commitment of all the heads of the nations, and that's why these meetings are regular. And we are having a global process to streamline things and make it uniform across the snow leopard landscapes. For example, the initiative of population assessment of world snow leopards, that protocol is same, that's being implemented. Management planning, similar all across, and so on and so forth.
Somebody is asking, can it survive in polar region, and whether snow leopard is found in southern region such as Antarctica?
No, this animal is found only in the Central and South Asian high mountains. As far as temperature is concerned, yes, it may live in polar regions, but what it will do there, it cannot survive there, because this is an animal that is that lives only in the mountains. So it will not be able to live in those areas where.
Yeah. So, sir, you have discussed the current threats, in the species. Mr. Yashwant Rao is asking, what are the future new threats that this species might be facing?
This is a very good question. I think as more and more areas get opened up for development, connectivity, and even I would say tourism, I think we are going to bring more and more people into snow leopard areas. This is one way good, because tourism is actually a double-edged sword. It's one way good, but other way that if we are not going to regulate numbers and have plans, then I would expect too much of trouble in snow leopard habitats. And so we need to balance that. Similarly, human use also needs to be balanced. The other concern of everyone is about development itself. The people want better roads, and we may have for development some projects that may come up there, which can also have impacts.
Sure. And somebody is asking about the running speed of snow leopard, especially to catch the prey.
See, I think snow leopard is not a animal which runs. It actually is a stalker. So it will stalk a prey because it has got a very good coat that blends with the surrounding. So it will blend and move quietly towards the prey because it will not be detected by the prey.
Sure.
And only the last few meters it will make the dash to hunt.
Okay.
Wild animals which are prey for snow leopard also very smart. They will graze in the area, but keep always vigilant about any approaching predator. And in case there is a situation, they always are close to cliff. So when a snow leopard attack happens or a wolf attack happens, they'll immediately run to the cliffs to save them. So that is escape terrain for them.
Okay.
So they don't do really long distances, but they may do a sprint to get there. But they jump very well and can come crashing down on the prey at great height in much steeper slopes, but they are agile for that.
Okay. Okay. So are there any captive breeding programs in India? Mr. Anupam Ghosh is asking.
Yes, I said one in Padmaja Naidu High Altitude Zoological Park in Darjeeling. Yeah. There is one conservation breeding program for snow leopards.
And again, Mr. Kavali Ishwar is asking about, given its wide distribution and sparse population, again about how can we check the illegal poaching? So that you have already covered.
Please remember, these areas are very remote and rugged, and it's not easy to access the area. So having manually patrolling them is going to be difficult. That we are still doing, but maybe in future we may have a technology that we could use to monitor illegal activities, which we could think about that. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, Ms. Nidhi is asking about the scope of RFID for tracing snow leopards.
She means genetic studies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently, see, snow leopard population estimation, we generally do by using camera trap based capture-recapture methods, because you can identify every individual from the photographs, the hundreds of photographs you may get. Because as like tiger stripes that are unique to each individual, snow leopard rosette patterns are also unique to each individual. So you can identify individuals. And today we are using artificial intelligence to actually identify images. Yeah. But other method would be to use genetics as a tool to identify individuals as well as estimate population. In fact, that is factored into the new program that is SPY as well as PAWS. Snow leopard scabs will be collected, and from that DNA will be extracted, and we can identify not only the species but also identify individuals, even the sexes, and then we can do a same capture-recapture model to estimate population of snow leopard. That will in fact do a better estimate than camera traps.
Yeah, radio frequency ID. She was also asking about
the RFID.
Yeah.
See, when we are doing satellite telemetry, that is one way of tracking animals, but using RFID for all the animals and tracking them will not be necessary also. For study sake, yes, we can do. I won't recommend invasive, so much of invasive research to mark each and every animal.
Yeah. Sir, is there any zoonotic disease in snow leopard population?
We don't know yet, but some studies are underway to look at disease investigation, because there are quite a few domestic animals moving in and out, so there is a likelihood.
Okay. So, Mr. Iftikhar is asking your opinion on downgrading the status of snow leopard from endangered to vulnerable in 2017.
I think there are two schools of thought, and I think the person who's asking also would probably know that. The one school of thought thinks that there's not much enough data that we can say that the status of animal is actually improved in the last 2-3 decades. But with the current levels of people involved in snow leopard research and the number of sightings that people are getting or working, and maybe with the increased awareness and things like that, the other group believes that probably the animal is in better status than before. So this is this can be a debate for a long time. I really don't want to get into this. See, these two things are based on information. When our information is not very reliable about the population estimate then and now, we cannot actually say the status is improved or not. No doubt, more number of people are now working, more number of people may be getting sightings or getting information on the status. But we cannot really tell us that the overall status is improved. So this is a gray area here.
Yeah.
So let the two groups keep thinking about it, and I think we should leave aside that and not worry about an animal's status in a list, and instead work towards actually trying to save the animal.
Yeah. And sir, somebody, Mr. Stravana is asking about the number of days after which snow leopards hunts again. So once it has its prey, how many days it takes to?
It depends. If it has killed a large prey, I think it can go for maybe 2-3 days, and then it can go after a week or so. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need, not necessarily that they hunt every day. So if it takes a small prey like a hare or a marmot, then it may hunt.
Mm-hmm. And somebody is asking, snow leopards have been known to migrate when winter. Is the political boundary, reason that might affect their migration?
No. Migration, altitudinal migrations, they don't do much. As a predator, they just follow prey. So when there's heavy snow, their wild prey like blue sheep or ibex may move a little bit within their range, and snow leopards show a slighter movement in the lower elevations. In summer, when the snow is not a limiting factor, they move around everywhere. But please remember, altitudinal migration is not that they'll come very, very low. It doesn't happen like that. There has been only one stray record of in the Himalaya of a snow leopard coming in 2700 or 2800. Otherwise, they very rarely come down to listen.
Okay. And a connecting question by Mr. S.K. Mishra, whether snow leopard change their habitat like Siberian birds?
Habitat like?
Likewise, Siberian birds.
No. See, please remember, this snow leopard would always like to, any strong animal, individual would like to be in the best or the optimal habitat. So stronger individuals live in optimal habitats with good prey and minimal disturbances. Other animals which are not that strong will get ranges or habitats in suboptimal areas. So they will not be shifting habitats. They may have a summer range and a winter range, but that will be within their annual range. They will not move areas long distance.
Yeah. And a hypothetical question from Indra Acharya. He asked, what will happen to Himalayan ecosystem if a snow leopard goes extinct?
So what will happen to this planet if all the humans go extinct?
Yeah.
So I think we need to see like every living organism in this world planet has a right to live. And in nature's creation, every animal or a plant has its own role in contributing to the various functions and ecological process. Snow leopard is the large predator and it's an apex predator of high altitude ecosystems. If that snow leopard is removed, its major function is niche is predation, predating on wild prey ungulates and keeping their numbers at one level. If you remove them, then the role of that would be done by wolves. If wolves are not there in some areas or if they're not in that many number, then you get animals like maybe your feral dogs will take over and they might do the function of predation. Or if there's no predator, then your wild ungulate populations will increase and herbivory will increase. So there will be an imbalance in the area. So that way, it's an apex predator, it's a flagship species. So if you conserve snow leopard, then you're taking care of the entire ecological pyramid of high altitude ecosystems where you have other co-predators, then you have ungulates, then your small mammals and the plants in that area.
Sure, thank you, sir. Somebody is asking how often the counting is done.
For our country and for many other countries in the world, excepting Bhutan, probably Bhutan has done its national count 5 years ago. India is doing it now, 20 and 2021. So by 2022, we will have figures. And most probably, I would expect that every 5 years, we'll do the national population.
Are there any cases where snow leopard has attacked local people?
There has been not a single instance of snow leopard attacking humans. I'm telling you one thing, it's one of the most shy animals in the world. It does not like to see humans or any other disturbance. It is very shy. In fact, I can put it this way. People like us who work in the snow leopard habitats may not have seen snow leopards that many times, but there are many times the snow leopard would have seen us. That's a thing. They are very shy. They avoid humans. Okay.
Sir, Karan Kamble is asking, do you know of any disease that is currently a threat for snow leopard, like we have canine distemper virus for other large cats?
We don't know, but an investigation on these lines will be very interesting. I don't know if his name's what?
Karan Kamble.
Karan?
Karan Kamble.
Mr. Kamble, if you are a veterinarian or if you're interested in wildlife diseases, this is a very nice question to be pursued by you or any of your colleagues.
You have already included it in your slides, but Dr. K. Mariswamy is asking, any special project that is initiated by Government of India for their conservation?
Project Snow Leopard, as I mentioned.
Working with local communities will be presumably critical. The good thing here may be that snow leopard conservation can be aided by Buddhist values of compassion and non-violence. Can we look more in that direction?
Yes, we are already looking into that direction. Most of the governments in these areas, Tibetan regions in Ladakh, Spiti, Lahaul, North Sikkim, we have a even Western Arunachal Pradesh for that matter, we have Buddhism they're playing a major role in a culture of the people, playing a major role in conservation. Some of the initiatives by many NGOs are also in the same lines as you're asking.
Perhaps it is a little early to ask, but somebody is asking about the impact of COVID on snow leopards and other wild cats.
I'm sorry, I will not be able to answer this question.
Dr. Mariswamy is asking, is there any adaptation behavior when temperature changes?
I think he's asking it from the angle of climate change.
Yeah.
If warming happens, I think the animals would either move up or move to colder areas within their range, maybe northern aspects and things like that.
Yeah. Mr. Shravan Raila, he is from Hyderabad and he is very interested to participate in the census program of snow leopard, and he wants to know how can he participate.
Very good. See, the state governments of Uttarakhand, Himachal, and the other like Sikkim, for example, and even Union Territories of Jammu Kashmir, they will do population estimation exercises. And if you get in touch with any of the institutions or NGOs working in snow leopard areas, and when this exercise is happening, you can try and join them as a volunteer.
And he can also write to you if you want to volunteer.
Yeah, if you want to volunteer in Uttarakhand, yes, you can write. And when it happens, we can, in fact, when it's happening this year or next year, we can ask him to join.
Sure. You have already answered question about poaching. Mr. Anupam Ghosh is asking, what are the reasons for poaching?
Because cat bones are used in Tibetan Chinese medicines, traditional medicines. So snow leopard bones are used for that. Snow leopard skins are used to, I don't know whether it continues or not, but it's used in making clothes. When coats, if you kill maybe 7 adults, you might get 1 coat stitched for a tall person.
Yeah.
And there's some, what should I say, myths surrounding snow leopards. So people like to keep the paws, or and the meat is also used in some medicines. So that's the only threat for the demand in the illegal wildlife trade is only threat. But there are also retaliatory killings. So I would like to differentiate poaching or bones and skin is one thing. Retaliatory killings are done by people to reduce livestock depredation.
Okay.
So if a livestock grazier lost 30 sheep or goat, he obviously will get angry and he will poison the kill so that the animal eats it and dies, or he will try and wait to kill the animal.
Okay.
All the efforts are now towards reducing the loss of livestock for people, so that retaliatory killings are completely negated.
Sure. Thank you, sir. And perhaps the last 2 questions, sir. One is, the second last is, how does snow leopard controls thermal regulation in their body?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, they have a very good coat. They have adapted to live in the high altitudes. They have enlarged nostrils and a better functioning heart and lungs, so they can take their oxygen in the rarefied atmosphere as well. And they, as a mammal, whatever activity physiology it has to do, it will do. That's it.
Yeah. And the last question from Mr. E. Tamilian. He's asking whether telemetry is still used in snow leopard conservation, and whether snow leopard in wild condition. He's asking still
Yes.
Now telemetry is used in snow leopard observations in wild condition.
Exactly. Yes, it is being done. Some animals have been collared in Ladakh by the Department of Wildlife Protection there. They are looking at home ranges, movement and activity pattern of some snow leopards. The Wildlife Institute had done one in 1990s. There are efforts to now collar snow leopards in Himachal Pradesh also, and maybe hopefully in future in Sikkim and Uttarakhand as well. But there are good satellite telemetry based studies on snow leopards in the wild in Mongolia, and there are going to be studies initiated in other areas as well.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for answering patiently all the questions. And I also thank all the participants to be so engaging and asking so many questions. Yeah. So before we end this session, we would request all the participants to take the survey that will be coming up after this session. And once again, from WI NVIS Resource Partners, we thank you very much. And we thank you, sir, for this wonderful talk and answering all the questions. Thank you
very much. It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Sonika, you can take that. Yeah.